Chapter Black Saga. Before we get into this one, you already know what I'm going to tell you. Watch my last two recaps for Yu Yu Hakusho, already up on the channel. Check them out before we get into this one. You watched them? Good, now let's start the recap. At Sarayashiki Junior High, Yusuke and Co. return to a life of normalcy when Botan visits with some new orders from Koenma. Though waits to share it until after school is out. But when school does end, Yusuke accepts a challenge from 3 random high schoolers looking for a fight. But this turns out to be no ordinary street fight, as the third-year Kido Asato reveals that he has abnormal powers of his own and abducts Yusuke. Pooh, who is with Yusuke, flies to alert Kuwabara and Botan of his abduction, and they find the note left by the kidnappers to meet at the specified mansion tonight at 11 o'clock, with Kuwabara, Hiei, and Kurama attending, if they wish to save Yusuke's life. They manage to get Kurama to join them quite easily, but in order to get Hiei to join, Botan must promise to acquit him of all his prior crimes.
I don't think you have the authority to do that, but okay.
So, they arrive at the mansion where Yusuke is being held, and the note on the door prohibits them from saying the word hot inside. When they enter, they find Shuichi's schoolmate, Yu Kaito, waiting for them, one of the numerous humans that's begun spontaneously manifesting abilities. In Kaito's territory, only words have power, and violence is prohibited. And as Hiei quickly learns when he says hot, if the taboo word is spoken, your soul is taken. With the door locked and no way for them to retrieve it peacefully from Kaito's ally, Mitsunari Yanagisawa, they are forced to play by his rules. After Kuwabara says the letters H-O-T in that order, and Botan stupidly repeats the word, the stage is set for a one-on-one intellectual showdown between Meiou Academy's top 2 students. So, after Kurama is permitted to change the taboo, he manages to make Kaito slip up in his own territory, as he breaks the new taboo by laughing at Kurama's face, thereby losing his soul, as his territory disperses. In the next trial, they all must head up to the second floor where Yusuke is being held hostage, through separate, trippy stairwells. When they arrive in the room Yusuke is in, Kido steps off his shadow, allowing him to move. Then he gives him his task, to discover which of his friends is actually Yanagisawa in disguise.
He has the ability to copy the appearance and memories of anyone he touches.
In typical Yusuke fashion, he has no idea who the imposter is, but slugs Kuwabara anyways, and happens to be correct. Then, Kido reveals the mastermind behind this whole setup, Genkai. Genkai wanted the group to become familiar with these new territorial abilities, and to recognize their own weaknesses. Apparently, the abilities of these 3 high schoolers suddenly manifested due to the recent workings of someone trying to build a tunnel between the human and demon realms, just as Sakyo was trying to do. The tunnel is located in the nearby Mushiyori city, where all the humans developing abilities are coming from, and Koenma shares what happens when the tunnel reaches its 4th and final phase. If the tunnel fully opens, demons of C and B class will be able to come and go as they please, but the A and S class ones that could destroy the world would still be unable to pass through the periphery that exists in the subspace dividing the human and demon worlds.
Just FYI, Taguro was considered B-class.
With the tunnel at Phase 2, Koenma says that in 3 weeks' time, the tunnel will be complete, when it reaches 2 kilometers in diameter, and in order to stop it, they must find its center and defeat the spellcaster. After they get some rest, the next day, the team head to Mushiyori City, which is infested with low-life demons, to find the tunnel center, minus Hiei, who has no interest in helping either side. The Yusuke group find a human named Murota, with the ability to read minds, and manage to sway him to their side, and with his help, they become introduced to the mastermind behind the tunnel operation, Sensui. They rush Murota to the hospital after he is sniped with an eraser, and the mind reader tells the group that there are 7 enemies behind this grand plan, and that he sensed a tremendous amount of bloodlust coming from Sensui's mind. The names of these 7 are Dark Angel, Gatekeeper, Sniper, Gourmet, Game Master, Doctor, and Seaman. Then, they find themselves caught within the territory of Doctor, and the bugs buzzing around make anyone they bite sick. With only Genkai, Yusuke, and Kido still mobile, they split up to find him, but only after Kido is incapacitated by him does his identity become revealed to Yusuke. Yusuke has a tough time fighting the doctor that feels no pain, and the only way to stop the virus from spreading throughout everyone in the hospital is to kill him. despite trying to avoid killing his first human. In the end, he leaves him no choice, and Yusuke is ridden with guilt over killing his first human.
Hey, don't worry. Genkai resuscitated him.
Oh, okay. After Koenma informs Yusuke that the center of the tunnel is actually underground, he changes the timeline to just 1 week until it's fully opened. But to counter this bad news, Koenma is at least able to tell them the location of their hideout. Rather than help save the world, Kuwabara decides to take a little me time and head to a Megalica concert with his friends. Following the concert, Kuwabara, who has lost his spiritual sensitivity since the Dark Tournament ended, is unable to help his friends when they are attacked by Sensui's ally, Seaman. Seaman is able to make liquid creatures by mixing his blood with any liquid, and in the pouring rain, his ability is at its most potent. When Kuwabara becomes trapped inside one of his monsters that exists in a separate dimension, his spirit powers reawaken with new abilities that allow him to slice through dimensions. As it turns out, this is exactly the power Sensui has been searching for in order to slice the periphery and the subspace between the human and demon worlds. Even though Seaman, whose real name is Kiyoshi Mitarai, was out to kill him, Kuwabara still shows him mercy and saves him together with his friends. When Kiyoshi awakens the next day, he tells the group that Sensui has a top-secret videotape called Chapter Black that contains all the worst atrocities humankind has ever committed. The memories of that video haunt Kiyoshi, though Kuwabara's act of kindness has softened him somewhat. Kurama then informs Yusuke that Koenma likely knows the identity of their enemy, and when Yusuke calls him looking for an explanation, and informs him that their enemy has Chapter Black, Koenma's suspicions are confirmed. The mastermind's name is Shinobu Sensui, and he was the spirit detective prior to Yusuke, who had a strong sense of justice, though he has not been seen in 10 years. Koenma then comes in person to detail the last order he ever gave Sensui. He ordered him to close up a tunnel that connected to the demon realm, that had been used by the Black Club to capture and enslave low-level demons.
Sakyo had created this system.
However, when Sensui reached the end of his raid to close the tunnel, he stumbled upon a room of humans torturing demons in horrific manners. Then something within him snapped, as he murdered all the humans there. Believing humanity should repent for its sins, he stole the Chapter Black tape, and has now returned to dig humanity's grave by unleashing the demon world on them. Just then, Sensui appears with Sniper, having planted a listening device on Kiyoshi. Then he informs them that the tunnel will be complete in 2 days' time. Yusuke attempts to see for himself the power his predecessor possesses, though Sensui's Reiko Reshuken style overwhelms our favorite delinquent. After Sensui begins a game of tag with the group, his partners manage to split Kuwabara up from his friends, as they capture the final piece missing from his plan. Though Yusuke doesn't let them escape so easily, as he chases their car on a bicycle, but is stopped in his tracks by Sniper, and loses sight of them. Sniper then places targets on Yusuke which enact his territory. No matter what, his attacks will hit their mark. After Sniper retreats, he begins attacking Yusuke from afar with various objects, both small and ridiculous. Caught between a rock and a hard place, Yusuke is saved by Hiei, and the three-eyed demon incapacitates Sniper. Then the two former allies trade blows. Though Hiei was just testing Yusuke, and though the demon still refuses to help, Yusuke sways him with the prospect of retrieving Chapter Black for him. Then they meet their allies in front of Irima Cave, where Sensui's base is located. So, Genkai, Kurama, Kiyoshi, Yanagisawa, Kaito, Yusuke, and Hiei enter the cave, with only Gourmet, Dark Angel, Game Master, and Gatekeeper left on the enemy side. Koenma has returned to Spirit World to prepare for the worst, whereas Keiko and Shizuru were left behind because they can't do fuck all, as Botan keeps watch outside the cave. Their first test inside the cave is the territory of Game Master, Tsukihito Amanuma, where they must win 4 mini-games to defeat the Goblin King, and move on from his territory. After they go up 3-zip quite easily, Amanuma starts taking things seriously, and his knowledge of the game makes him essentially unbeatable. Though when Kurama suspects that the child has no idea what he's truly gotten himself into, and that if he is defeated, he will die just as the Goblin King does in the real game, the boy panics and slips up, realizing that Sensui never cared about him at all. When Kurama ultimately wins, Amanuma dies, and he, Hiei, Yusuke, and their guide Kiyoshi continue on, whilst Genkai, Kaito, and Yanagisawa turn back to monitor the city. Meanwhile, Koenma returns from Spirit World, having gotten permission from his father to remove his pacifier should the need arise, and he tells Botan to fly to Spirit World and report to his father should they fail to stop the hole from opening in 2 hours' time. When Yusuke and Ko arrive at Sensui's location, they find Kuwabara tied up, with the tunnel to Demon World just 30 minutes away from opening, behind him. Then, Sensui says that if they defeat Gourmet, he will return Kuwabara to them, and Kurama steps up to take him on, teeming with rage at the fate Amanuma met with. Kurama immediately decapitates him, but the elder Toguro, whom Gourmet had previously swallowed, takes over his body.
Sensui had found Toguro at Hanging Neck Island after the Dark Tournament, barely alive.
But after Kurama deploys a tree that feeds off its prey's hallucinations, the fight quickly ends, as the tree will feed off the constantly regenerating Toguro for eternity. Sensui keeps his end of the bargain, and returns Kuwabara to them. Then his ally Itsuki traps all of them but Yusuke with him in a separate dimension, so that they cannot interfere with the battle between the two spirit detectives. Sensui says he's been waiting for the day he could fight his successor, but the difference in their strength is made clear once Sensui gets serious. Though the former spirit detective claims he can read Yusuke's moves, the delinquent shows off his unpredictable side, but just as he's getting some good hits in, one of Sensui's alternate personalities takes over and catches him off guard. Itsuki explains that Sensui has 7 alternate personalities residing within his mind, which he subconsciously created to cope with all the trauma he's endured.
The 7 he mentioned from the beginning weren't his allies, but his 7 personalities.
As Kazuya, his homicidal personality, tortures and prepares to kill Yusuke, Koenma arrives in time to stop him. Koenma then removes his pacifier, which has been storing his spirit energy for centuries, and prepares to release the strongest defensive spell in all creation, Mafuken. Koenma is prepared to be trapped inside its barrier for eternity alongside Sensui, to make amends for what he put him through, but Yusuke stops him, preferring to handle things alone. Though when the villain's main personality, Shinobu, surfaces, the power he emits is even greater than before, as he seems to have mastered sacred energy, the strongest form of spirit energy. With even his aura too much for Yusuke to handle, Koenma takes matters into his own hands, and releases the Mafuken. But even that legendary spell is unable to contain the human's power.
After Botan hears of the earthquake, she goes to inform King Yama.
With no tricks left up his sleeve, Yusuke decides to take a page out of Kuwabara's book, to sacrifice his life, in the hopes that his friend's powers explode. Desperate to save his friend, Kuwabara manages to summon his dimension-cutting spirit sword, and though they escape Itsuki's dimension, it proves too late to save Yusuke. With the tunnel fully opened, Kurama, Hiei, and Kuwabara follow Sensui through it in rage at their friend's death, and Kuwabara does not hesitate to slice the periphery that prevents A and S-class demons from passing through. Elsewhere, Botan informs King Yama of the situation, and he is forced to summon the Special Defense Force to deal with it, as they head for the human world. Meanwhile, Sensui enters the demon realm for the first time, and Yusuke's friends follow suit, eager to avenge his death. Though even Kurama in his Yoko form, Hiei with his Jigan Eye, and Kuwabara with his dimensional sword are unable to do any real damage to the S-class human. Back in human world, the Special Defense Force arrive to contain the situation, as well as to confirm Yusuke's death, as it turns out he is a descendant of the Mazoku, one of the most powerful class of demon.
Though his ancestors have been normal humans because they weren't strong enough or some bullshit.
As Koenma tries to protect Yusuke from the Defense Force against his father's orders, Yusuke's awakening begins, and an evolved Pooh also arrives to aid him. After Yusuke pranks the Defense Force by pretending like he's the devil, he and Koenma ride Pooh into the demon realm, where the Demonkin has some unfinished business with Sensui. With his newfound power, Yusuke is now more than a match for Sensui, and the two S-class powers engage in a fight that seems like something out of Dragon Ball Z. Though in the middle of the fight, a strange voice invades Yusuke's mind, and he undergoes a transformation. Now truly resembling a demon, and with no control of his body, he beats the absolute shit out of Sensui, and fires off his most powerful spirit gun yet to finish him. Though when Yusuke regains control of his body, he is angered at having won the way he did, and when he tries to save his predecessor's life, he is stalked by Itsuki, who tells them that Sensui has less than half a month to live. Though Koenma could have saved him with his Mafuken, he had already used up all its energy, and even revived Amanuma on his way through the cave.
Sensui says he planned it that way. Okay, buddy.
Sensui states that he wanted the demon world to be the place he died, being that he had killed so many of their kind, with a misplaced sense of justice. So, after Sensui tells Yusuke that he enjoyed their fight, he draws his last breath. Then Itsuki takes his soul away from this dimension as Shinobu wanted, and the two spend some quiet time together.
Hey, yo, he's a necrophiliac?
Though Yusuke is eager to find his ancestor who had controlled him during the fight, even he's not so selfish that he would risk being trapped in the demon realm forever and abandon his friends. At last, the group return home, and the Special Defense Force finish sealing up the tunnel, then head back to Spirit World, knowing they are unable to stand up to Urameshi. Of Sensui's remaining allies, Kiyoshi, Amanuma, and Hagiri go on to live normal, happy lives at school, whereas the escaped convict Kamiya alters his face and establishes a clinic where he helps the sick. Next, Yanagisawa, Kaito, and Kido go their own separate ways, after promising Genkai to never use their abilities again. Elsewhere, Hiei ends up in possession of the Chapter Black Tape, but despite it being a powerful bargaining chip for him with Spirit World, he decides to slice it up. Finally, Koema decides not to return to Spirit World, having defied his father, and Yusuke returns to school, but is unable to rest easy, knowing he did not win his last fight fairly. Chapter Black destroyed, written off, recap done. Thank you if you made it to this point in the video. There is one more mini, kind of unfinished arc that I will recap. That video should be out in a couple of days, so stay tuned for the Three Kings Saga summary. I've been marathoning these videos and I'm drained as fuck, so if you wouldn't mind liking, subscribing, commenting, it would mean a lot. Stay tuned for my next video. I love you all. Take it easy, and peace.